Hi, this is Michelle Lightworker and welcome to Enlightenment Activation Series and our fifth installment, which is all about the shadow of unity, disconnection, and how that can activate our enlightenment. I spoke to 5 individuals and 1 couple about this amazing catalyst for revolutionary change and the way we see and behave in the world as one.
Hi, my name is Sean N. Murray, and I am 50 years old. Yes, I am. And I am the founder of stopstuff.com, which is an organization, a social enterprise that is literally like the Viacom for social enterprise, using multifaceted and multi-sensory approaches to change the world and empower people to be themselves so that they too can change the world. I am a 9/11 survivor, and I was actually in the World Financial Center when the first plane hit, and I saw chunks of building falling from the sky in flames, and I was working on Wall Street at the time, and so I'm outside with a whole bunch of people, and we're literally just trying to figure out what's going on, thinking that it was a commuter plane, and then literally just in the same millisecond, we all recognized that we were under a terrorist attack. So I'm standing there, and the plane was like as close as my ceiling right now. And I could literally, it was, it's a huge commercial plane. I could see that plane. I remember seeing like United on the plane and seeing the actual windows of the plane, and it went so fast, but in my mind, and even still today, it was like it was in slow motion. And like it was like a blimp, and it just went so slow. But it was this welling up of energy of every single person knowing in a communal sense, this is a terrorist attack. The journey of that day was horrifying in many ways, but it was also like when you're in a situation like that, you get to see how you respond, what you're made of. And everyone responded in different ways. I stayed very calm the whole day. I was thoughtful, I was strategic. There were people around me who had thrown away all of their resources for survival, threw away their purse, their phone, their money, their wallet. And it's interesting because as I think about what I do today in terms of stopping stuff, some of what I do is look to help people utilize the resources that they have available. And there are resources available for everyone, but you have to sometimes go out and find them. And then once you have them, you actually have to learn how to work with them and hold on to them as part of your not only survival, but as a way to thrive. There was so much giving that was happening during that time because it was almost like this pilgrimage through the city, and restaurant owners were letting us use their restroom and giving us water. And it felt just like a pilgrimage, that you would see like on TV. The best part about 9/11 was the aftermath of 9/11, where literally it was the best possible love you could ever feel in your life. And if anyone who's been to New York City or any big city, that's that hustle and bustle, and you don't look at people, and you don't look at people because some people might be crazy, but we looked at each other. I remember being on the train from New Jersey to New York for the first time and seeing the ruins of the World Trade Center. And it was like this eerie feeling of being like on some kind of Disney ride, but it was real. The passion that we had for each other as people, the compassion we had for each other as people, the love, the connectedness, the oneness. That is, I just realized as I'm saying this to you now, that gives me chills. That is what, that was deep. Yeah, that is what we felt. We felt oneness. That fuels everything that I do. It is, it's why I know for sure, without a doubt at all, that we can change the world. I know that. And my company has stopped stuff. It's all about stopping stuff that we can all collectively agree that we don't want. Stopping gun violence, stopping homelessness, human trafficking, poverty. And I know, New York was built back up on that love. And I know that if we can find that love, if we can find that oneness, that we actually can propel each other, save each other, love each other, and truly change the world. It is the oneness that saved us in New York City. And it is oneness that can change the world.
Aloha, I am Destiny Faye of New Earth, New You Now, Inspire Unity Movement and Inspire Destiny. I am currently in Australia where I was born, and I'm 29 years old. My experience in a lot of online and offline conscious communities over the last couple of years has been that there is still some of us on personal, physical, emotional levels that are struggling, for me personally, to be able to let go of the aspects of what I'm wanting to do or to create with the way that I interpret my reality. And what I've started to realize through all of these different group interactions that I've had in physical communities and digital communities is really about where the greater vision is being met. So when I focus my attention on what is the goal of this group, and what is the goal of whatever project I'm wanting to create, and how can that goal still be achieved regardless of what the name of it is or how the structure of it is, because in unity it's really about being able to achieve that goal collectively. But if we're coming from individuality, which we're going to be, there is still these aspects of wanting to be acknowledged or wanting to use all of ourselves in the interaction with what we're creating with others. I feel like sometimes when we can get attached to having to have it our way in every single aspect, it creates this barrier and this shadow around what we're actually attempting to create by either our own project personally or the projects that we're wanting to interact with others. So I've been really happy to be able to see how I myself am able to observe and release the aspects that aren't necessarily needed in order to create the collective mission and vision, because what we're all wanting to do can't be created just on our own, but we all have this important part. I use a visualization and I use words that help me to do that, which is we all have golden puzzle pieces that on their own are still sacred and golden and a puzzle piece. And it's very important, all equally important. But at the end, in order to create this greater puzzle that is also very multidimensional in many aspects, we need to be able to offer our puzzle piece on the side that's going to connect with someone else in order for it to fit. But if we're wanting the whole piece of the puzzle to connect in all ways to one thing that we're trying to connect to, it's not going to be able to always fit in that way. It's only connecting what is necessary to come together. And everything else, I feel, is an aspect of our shadow that we can integrate and allow to come into the whole. I've felt when I've changed my perspective, it has really created more synergy and created more transparency and deeper connection and greater progress physically manifested in the way that we're interacting with either an individual or a group of people, and making sure that we're coming back to, well, what is the great vision of what we're wanting to achieve, and how is the connection and the need to be able to connect to others with a different perspective all coming together, something that is the main goal. And that's something that I feel is really important, both personally for me to feel whole in myself and to connect to all of the different aspects of myself where I can see where they can all connect together. So it's definitely something that I feel when we come to these realizations personally and we bring that energy to an online or an offline community, we're able to have more progress, synergy, and to be able to create together from what we have. And that's something that I can see really taking what we're all doing now to a whole nother level.
Hi, my name is Zoe Bao. I forget my age actually. I think I'm 45 or 46. I come from Sydney, Australia, and I'm a Jedi coach. So I work with the energy of the body and the universe. When I was growing up, I experienced a lot of adversity, a lot of trauma, a lot of suffering. And like many of us, I became attached to my story. I created a story around who I thought that's who I was. So I would wear my heart on my sleeve, my story on my sleeve. Everyone that I met, I would very openly share it. I actually became my story. And then I went on this journey where I started to unravel and have incidents that popped up that became so confronting. The simplest way to put it is I needed to die before I died, meaning I needed to let go of who I thought I was. I had an accumulation of very traumatic events, from just running off the top of my head, from being assaulted by a patient that I was working with, spat in the face, he had Hep C. And then luckily I worked out it could be a lot worse. There could be a lot worse things than being HIV positive, and it was found out to be a false positive, which was a big wake up. And then it was only 2 months later that then I was assaulted again, and my cheekbone was fractured. And then I hit rock bottom in post-traumatic stress disorder. And when I see these are all like signs for me to really start, like massive slaps in the face for me to wake up. I always like have this saying that, you know, your mind is a lousy boss, but it's a faithful servant. And the part of the mind we're talking about is ahamkara, the ego part of the mind, which unfortunately is running around 24/7 for the majority of people. Now, what I'm really starting to see within myself is that was the aspect to myself that was like my inner child. It was the which some people see as the dark side, but to me it's that beautiful side where all your gifts and all those things that you've forgotten about who you are. So within myself, I created this separation. I was no longer connected with my inner child. And as I started to quieten down the ego, I started to see the beauty in it and not feeling out of control with everything around me. I started to see that was an important aspect of who I was. It was my personality, it was my spunkiness, my quirkiness, which I'd sort of like pushed down and shamed for so long because I was always trying to fit in. See yourself as this diamond, rough cut diamond, and we need to go into those areas to see there is no separation of that, and it's learning to love that and honor that and find the gifts within. It's about learning to dance and almost like walk along with the ego, hand in hand. See them as your beautiful partner in crime. It's this beautiful push-pull dancing of energies, and the ego and who that was, that's like my playfulness. It's my inner child. It's that part of that personality that I kept trying to fit in with everyone else. And it feels like such a beautiful and a freeing place to now to see that all those things I needed to go through were there to protect me. Once I'd learned to become the master of my ego, not my ego controlling me, that's when I could start to create the unification between me, myself, and my ego. There is no separateness.
My name's Kiana Ella. I'm 35 years old. I live in the Sunshine Coast and I'm a psychic clearing oracle. I'm somebody who's very, very loving and very nurturing, and I'm always making sure that everybody's needs are met. And I've got that mother type thing. Without being a martyr, I've worked with my martyr stuff quite a lot. I'm so happy and so willing to keep giving out all this love. But it's like, how do I get to bring that back to myself? And it's like, it's confusing. It's actually quite amazing to me that I've been so focused on love and being the expression of love, but that I couldn't understand why I wasn't receiving it. So it's, you know, just being able to have it that you know, really able to fill that cup up for yourself first, rather than constantly trying to give it out and hoping that it's going to come back to you, is just, it's pretty counterintuitive, really. Yeah, when you know that you're in that place that love is all you are, you have to accept love, because it's on the same frequency as you, it's the same vibration as you, it's who you are. As when you wake up in the morning, you just glow with that. So, you know, the separation of that is just, it's just insanity. The shadow of unity is the disconnect that we're experiencing right now. And the thing with the disconnect is that it's not actually real. The disconnect that we're feeling and experiencing is based on our ego's desire to confirm and validate the fact that we are alone and that we are never going to be connected to anything greater or bigger than ourselves. So this separation that it creates by having this separation that it creates is made from self-fulfilling prophecy to prove that it's correct. So what happens is when we get into that place where we have our ego, you know, really wanting to confirm that we're right, so then we'll keep attracting those experiences that will validate that we are actually correct. So when we've got the shadow of unity coming in, it's basically saying that no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try to do things, it's always going to be, when I do this, then I can be happy. When I do this, then I can feel satisfied. When I do this, then I'll be classed as being successful. And all of it's just BS when it comes down to it, because we are already in that place of oneness where none of it exists, and the duality that we're feeling and experiencing right now is actually not real. It's this whole thing of just trying to pull us one way, left and right, but we've always got to come back to that place that we can find our center. In that center, there is nothing but love, but bliss, but peace, and everything that it is that we're seeking in the world right now comes from that place of bliss, which is actually within our own hearts. So the thing is how do we overcome the ego's desire to fulfill the prophecy that is that we are all alone? And the way that we do that is through connecting into the earth, through connecting back into our nature, our true nature, and that is by being able to reflect upon what our values actually are versus that of which society has put on us, as to how we're supposed to be as a woman, as a man, as a mother, as a father, as a brother, a sister, friend, you know, everything that they put on us as to how we're supposed to be as a human. It just makes it that we're able to forget what we actually are at the core of our being. But the unity is always there. Just got to stop the chatter, stop the noise, and when you're in that place where you're in nature and you're connecting into your heart, connecting into the earth, connecting into the sun, then you find the place that none of it really matters. And there is peace and silence.
Hi, I'm Phoebe Hogendijk. I'm 68 years old.
I'm Paul Hogendijk and I'm 57. And together we are Ancient Pathways, a company dedicated to personal and spiritual development through ancient wisdom.
And we live in the Northern Rivers in Lismore, New South Wales, Australia. We've travelled all over the world and we've connected with 11 of the most ancient tribes on the planet. We've spent 8 years doing that. And the one thing that we found that was so important, that no matter what our colour, our race, our beliefs, our creeds, whatever it is, that we need to come together. Even if it's just for one thing, we need to actually come together. And what is it that we need to come together for? We need to come together on our enlightenment and expansion. We need to come together to help to save this planet. Not only to help to save the planet, but when she decides to evolve and become enlightened, which she is doing constantly, that we go with her. And there has been that absolute disconnect up until now, but that has actually pushed us forward. It's pushed us into realizing who we are, where we've come from, what it is we really want, and then we go from there.
Probably in the last 15 years, we have really noticed a disconnect. Prior to that, people would look each other in the eye, they might smile, they might say hello, even if they didn't know each other. 15 years down the track, it's a different story. So we're finding now that there isn't that. People will avoid eye contact. They'll look away, they'll look over you, they'll look anywhere but at you. And that creates a sense of loneliness and a disconnection within each other. So I think a lot of that has to do with our technology. I think that's a huge part of it. We need to look at what our cell phones are doing, how we're being programmed in ways that we don't understand.
You need to use our technology in a good way.
Absolutely.
You need to actually use it to come together like we're doing now, rather than to go, hey, let's have a conversation.
When we were in the Andes, we traveled with a mystic called Don Americo, and there was a particular time of the day called the hour of power. And that's where we used to sit and watch the sun go down high up in the Andes in a really mystical place. And we sat there one night and it was freezing. And he looked at each and every one of us. They call them Waikis, those who are becoming light. And he said, Waikis, you need to come and sit together. He said, don't let the wind blow between you. He said, you'll freeze. And that's what they learn. They come together, they hug, they keep each other warm. And at this particular time when the winds are blowing, as they are, we do need to come together. We do need to stay warm. We do need to support each other.
For our growth and our enlightenment and our evolution, we need to come together. Yes, we can have our own separate beliefs. That's fine. That's amazing.
It's diversity.
It is. And we need the diversity. It's like in our gene pool, we need to diversify. But the powers to be, or those who think they own the planet, have separated us out because they know that when we come together, there is power. And they want to keep us from evolving. And it doesn't matter what your belief is, but eventually what we really love to see on this planet is people absolutely celebrating each other's differences and really rejoicing in our similarities and saying, hey, you can be who you are. You can be who you are. I am who I am. Now let's all get together and help create this amazing planet that it's meant to be. Let's all create the amazing beings that we're meant to be.
Literally all are one. And you'll hear that over and over again, but at some point, people actually get it, that there is no disconnect ever. This feeling of separation is just an experiment. It's
all an illusion.
It's an illusion. We can never be separate. We can never be separate from spirit. We cannot be not spiritual beings. We are spirit in the flesh.
And then by default, we are spiritual. So everything we do, good, bad, the ugly, the even uglier, the beautiful, it's all spiritual. It's all spirit based. There is no, oh, you're not being too spiritual, or you're being too spiritual, or you're being waffle. We're all spirit. Everything we do is spirit. It doesn't matter what it is spirit, and therefore by default it's spiritual and part of our enlightenment, part of our onward evolution.
Hi there, my name is Sharia Fox, and I'm a transformational catalyst and author of revelatory teachings for our times, as well as someone who's been on the planet 53 years in this particular embodiment. And I'm currently living in Boulder, Colorado. This time on the planet is such a very important time for reconnecting, because so many of us feel disconnected from each other, from nature, and from source, from our God, creator, whatever word we use to describe that ineffable suchness beyond, in the all that is, where we are remembering our oneness. And so reconnecting is really a major focus for me personally and professionally. I did a little meditation the other day asking what was my main job, and basically I'm an electrician for God. And so that means we're reconnecting literally the filaments of light back to our source consciousness. Now, the source consciousness is that place of our original oneness, and we want to call this a pre-existent unity. the unity that existed before this experience we've been having on the earth plane, where we have felt this sense of separation from one another. And the time is now to bridge that separation and come back to our wholeness and our oneness. And this has a reflection in our physical brains, the sides and hemispheres of the brain being separated and almost battling. It has a reflection in the masculine and feminine and the battles going on there. It has a reflection in the battles in the world, in the earthly plane, where there's warring and other things going on. It has a reflection in business as well. And we're learning that when we do certain things, when we bring ourselves into a coherent state through any number of means, that the two hemispheres of the brain come together, and it becomes impossible to go into that dualistic or separated thinking. We have the capacity to be individuated and one at the same time. And down here on the earth plane, in fact, we're meant to be individuated with our unique special gifts, and yet we can have that oneness again, and the feeling of it, which has to do with love, harmony, well-being, peace, feeling free, feeling at ease. Now, when we don't have those feelings of ease and harmony, that means there's some kind of disconnection going on. And that's where we get to dig into the cauldron of our very own being and see what the reflection is. What is the world reflecting back to us about how we're still running programs and thought forms of disconnection in our own body, mind, spirit complex? Because the way that our brains actually work, they get patterned with neural pathways connecting over and over again based on certain thought forms that we run over and over again. We might have picked up on those thought forms from our culture, from our parents, from our teachers, from our past lives even, or our ancestral lineage. And those patterns are still running in us. So we're the only ones that can undo them. And so it's a time of learning great awareness. And the awareness is, what are we thinking? What are we doing with our vibration? How are we running separation programs? And what could we think instead? Because we're not making it wrong or bad that we had that separation. It's very, very, very important to come into a state of unconditional love for ourselves. And by becoming aware of the patterning that is in us, and by understanding that this was not, that we are innocent in having taken that on, then we can begin to truly love ourselves again, just like the source does. So the source, God, life itself, loves us unconditionally. And it's even more, unconditionally is even a limited word to try to say it, because we are that love. We are so cherished. We are so deserving. We are so worthy. And we are so blessed. And so reconnecting to that knowing of how loved we are, while we're also giving that love to those places of ourselves which still feel disconnected, makes us truly able to find that self-love, which will allow us to heal, finally, to heal the separation within our very own selves, because that's where it gets healed. And as it gets healed in us, it also gets healed in the world. Each time any one of us clears these things, we are clearing it for the whole. And that's why, as we do our inner work, the outer world will begin to reflect back to us this healing.
So, what do you think? I know we've covered so many aspects of how we can actually perceive unity in our world today. Whether it's a traumatic experience that has been our catalyst to understand and redefine our oneness with each other, whether it's working out how we can actually align ourselves with a golden puzzle piece back into a conscious community, whether it's learning how to embrace our ego, conquering the illusion of separation, reformatting our brain so that it no longer thinks along dualistic lines, and reconnecting to all that is. Is it possible perhaps that we've needed that disconnection and those feelings to really know how it feels to then be in oneness consciously?